had to have so much security. There was not enough. I was swarmed. It's all on video. Everyone can see this. But I will tell you what's on video is Jamaal Bowman shouting at the top of his lungs, cursing, calling me a horrible, calling me a white supremacist, which I take great offense to. That is like calling a person of color the N-word.
That was Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's something of an expert on how to incite mobs. Greene was complaining that New York Congressman Jamaal Bowman hurt her feelings by asking Greene to cool it with all the QAnon stuff.
Expel him. We gotta save the party. The party's hanging by a thread.
We gotta get rid of Biden.
The party's hanging by a thread. You gotta save the party. Listen, no more QAnon, no more MAGA,
no more CNN,
no more debt ceiling nonsense. Come on now, save the party.
No, we gotta
save America, save the children.
One thing that's missing from that video, the angry mob Greene claims Bowman incited that allegedly made her fear for her life. But a little thing like reality never stopped Marjorie Taylor Greene, who compared what you just saw to a black person being called the N-word. I'll just defer to the great John Mulaney on this one. If you're comparing the badness of two words and you can't even say one of them, that's the worst word.
Calling me a white supremacist, which I take great offense to, that is like calling a person of color the N-word.
But Greene wasn't done talking about how victimized she was by a colleague talking about work with her. Pay special attention to the words she uses to describe Jamaal Bowman, because they'll be familiar to anyone who listens to the coded language of the right-wing media.
He was the one that approached me. Even CNN reported that. Yelling, shouting, raising his voice. He has aggressive his physical mannerisms are aggressive, and he just recently shoved Thomas Massie just outside the House chamber. I think there's a lot of concern about Jamaal Bowman.
Greene describes Bowman as having an aggressive posture and making her feel threatened. The same words commonly used when conservatives call the police on black people who aren't actually doing anything wrong. And her comment about Bowman shoving Massie is wrong too. Here's video of that.
I'll bring it down a notch. All right, have you ever worked in the school? I've got a bill to repeal. I worked in the school for 20 years. I was a team. I was screaming before you came and interrupted me. I worked in the school for 20 years. I worked in the school 20 years. I was a teacher.
You can see lawmakers from both parties filing past Bowman and Massie, who were having a heated argument about the recent mass shooting in Tennessee. But not one of those members reported Bowman shoving Massie, because he didn't. But Greene is just fine portraying Bowman as violent and unhinged. It's the language of white supremacy that's become all too familiar in the Republican vocabulary. And the Trump GOP is now comfortable saying that actually, white supremacy isn't even that bad. At least, that's the message we got when 26 Republicans on the Oversight Committee refused to denounce white supremacy this week. The GOP's growing comfort with race baiting comes at a time when white supremacist extremism represents the single largest domestic terrorism threat in the United States, and the Department of Homeland Security isn't messing around about how serious that threat is. Here's DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
The president yesterday at his commencement address for the Howard University graduates called white supremacy the major domestic terror threat in this country. Is that correct?
It tragically is. You know, in the terrorism context, domestic violent extremism is our greatest threat right now. Individuals driven to violence because of ideologies of hate.
But despite a growing number of far-right extremists picking up guns and murdering as many people as they can find, the GOP still thinks the biggest threat to the country is Jamaal Bowman being mean to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Republicans have condemned Jamaal Bowman over a dozen times for disrespecting Marjorie Taylor Greene. Unfortunately, that isn't the case for the Allen, Texas shooter. Republicans have refused to issue a single statement condemning the white supremacy that motivated that man to pick up a gun and massacre people as young as 5. In the Republican world, aggressive questioning is the same as physical violence, and these are the people who call everyone else the snowflakes. Bowman is speaking with the frustrated voice of a nation sick and tired of Republicans inciting violence with their dangerous rhetoric.
Hey, let me tell you something, Jamaal. Not very smart. You should pay attention.
Save the party!
If Marjorie Taylor Greene can't handle the criticism for her extremist, conspiracy-fueled opinions, she shouldn't be serving serving in Congress. What Republicans really want is a safe space for their bad ideas. They won't find that in Washington. And if you think that's all the GOP has been up to, take a look at this video. And as always, consider subscribing and leave a comment below so you can let me know what I should cover next.